beautiful Pisces friends. Welcome to Promethea Astrology. There are 5 key things you need to understand about being Pisces if you want to understand the zodiac sign deeply and completely from this ancient esoteric framework. The first thing you need to understand about being Pisces is that this is a sign ruled by the planet Jupiter. The reason this is the most important thing to start with is because from this ancient framework, the planetary ruler you can think of as like the god or the king of this region in the sky world that is Pisces land. So the ancients understood the zodiac to be like its own world. This is the sky world, the kingdom in the sky, made up of these 12 different kingdoms, one of which is Pisces. And each zodiac sign has a king or queen of this place. And for Pisces, the king, the god in charge of Pisces land is Jupiter. And for you guys, this is very fortunate because Jupiter is the planet of luck, abundance, and good fortune. So the sign of Pisces is basically a manifestation of Jupiter. There are 2 signs that Jupiter rules. One is Pisces and the other is Sagittarius. In modern times, people have also associated Neptune to be the ruler of Pisces. So I'll talk about Neptune in a little bit as well, just so you know. But for me, as a traditional Hellenistic astrologer, Jupiter is your guy. And so in the same way that leadership sets the culture, Jupiter is the energy of Pisces. So Jupiter is Zeus in the Greek pantheon, also Marduk in the Babylonian scheme of gods, is governing things like religion, ideology, philosophy, big picture thinkings, growth, expansion, good fortune, good luck, abundance, all of these lovely things. I think of Jupiter as like Santa Claus energy, also Oprah, very much giving gifts. See, you get a car, you get a car, everybody's wishes are granted, kind of like the genie of the planetary scheme. Jupiter also governs things like justice and kind of authority in a way. So Zeus was quite authoritarian, king of the gods in the Greek pantheon there. Neptune, on the other hand, some people consider to be a higher octave of Venus. So Neptune is about this kind of divine union, the dissolution of the boundaries between self and other, this realization of the oneness of all things. Also extremely creative. Neptune would govern things like the imagination, creativity, kind of like the collective consciousness in a way. I think of Neptune as also kind of fog. So it just kind of dissolves everything into this cosmic soup of oneness. And while there is a quite transcendent element to this, it can also be a little bit shadowy sometimes. Neptune's also associated with things like delusion, confusion, obscuring reality, the lack of clarity, can be kind of like rose-colored glasses, having trouble seeing clearly what is true and real. Can also govern things like addiction and self-undoing in some ways sometimes, and those kinds of substances that give you take down the ego, take down the boundaries of self to everything. It just is that oneness. And so all of this is also very similar to Pisces nature, which is why modern astrologers came to assign Neptune to rule Pisces. But from my perspective, it still makes sense to use Jupiter because Neptune as an outer planet changes signs only once every 14 years or so. So it takes Neptune a long time to get through a sign. And so it's more of a collective planet, not a personal planet. So therefore, the Neptune sign will be the same for everyone within a 14-year time frame. And so when we look at the ruler of the ascendant, if you had Pisces rising, it would be the same sign placement for everyone within that 14-year time period. And that is helpful when we're looking at cultural trends and kind of the collective dream and ideals of a generation. But when it comes to analyzing who you are as an individual, Jupiter changes sign about once every year. And so that is going to be much more personal and probably relevant in terms of indicating things about your life uniquely. So both of these frameworks I think are helpful, but I as a traditional astrologer will still mostly just refer to Jupiter here. Okay, level 2. The next thing that you need to understand about Pisces to really get to the bottom of things is that Pisces is a water sign. So water in astrology governs things like the emotions, the intuition, feeling, merging, depth, healing. So Pisces can be quite emotional, deep feelers, deep intuitors, quite mystical. I think of the archetype of Pisces as the mystic. And so, this watery realm of the feelings, the emotions, the mystical, transcendent worlds, that is the water that Pisces swims in. The third layer of understanding this ancient framework is going to be that Pisces is a mutable sign. So, mutable comes at the end of a season. So Pisces is the transition from winter to spring, the last trimester of winter. So that is going to be mutable. Mutable is the nature of being changeable and adaptable. But the way in which Pisces is changeable and adaptable and go with the flow is in this feeling way, in this watery way. So it's mutable water. The way this manifests for Pisces overall in terms of character as a mutable water sign ruled by Jupiter is that Pisces tends to be extremely deep and creative and really tapped into this collective consciousness, deeply mystical, deeply creative, deeply feeling, with a deep desire to really heal in some way, to heal the collective, and it's not necessarily a drive to do that per se, but it's more that maybe this is the Neptune nature again there. Pisces has this ability to really connect to what is possible, to the goodness of humanity. They have this incredible vision, this creative vision, this power of the imagination to really see just this kind of altruistic, perfect world. They understand the goodness. They know the good that is possible. And this is part of Jupiter's nature of being very oriented towards justice and fairness and what is good and right, and related to God as well, in that big picture, expansiveness. So Pisces can just really deeply feel, as a water sign, feel into this possibility of a better world, of the goodness of mankind, of this altruistic kind of ideal place. Pisces just knows the good world that is possible and is very connected to that vision, and can also oftentimes create this through art. Music, Kurt Cobain of Nirvana was famously a Pisces. It can also be visual art, poetry, any of the arts really is going to be the realm that Pisces excels in and expressing this vision that they have. Now, the challenging thing about this is that, as we are all aware, having a human experience here on planet Earth, unfortunately, the reality of the human experience is one of suffering most often. And so Pisces, as a mutable water sign, very adaptable to the emotional landscape around them. Water has no boundaries. Water is formless. And as mutable water, moving, Pisces is the ocean. They have no defense. And then the next layer of understanding Pisces, number 4 here, is the symbol, which is the 2 fish. So the 2 fish swimming, right? Literally, Pisces is the ocean, the mutable waters of the ocean, the 2 fish. The other water signs, we have Cancer, the crab, has a shell. Scorpio, the scorpion, also quite armored with defenses. Pisces is relatively defenseless here. Pisces is swimming in these waters, in this emotional collective consciousness, in the emotional landscape of the collective. And maybe this is the nature of Neptune as well. Pisces tends to be really tuned in to what's happening in this larger concept. So all that suffering of the world that exists out there is really felt deeply for Pisces, and it can be quite difficult for them to be boundaried around these types of things. They can be a little bit overwhelmed by the collective emotional state, and this can be true in the world and the culture at large, but also, of course, interpersonally with their loved ones or the people around them in a room. Going to be very intuitive, very perceptive, very tuned into the emotional landscape of the room and the people around them. And so that can be a little bit hard when that maybe not be the way that you want to feel, but just is the collective feeling of the moment. So it can be really important for Pisces people to have practices of staying grounded and setting boundaries. This is a very important practice for Pisces people. Maybe you need to touch grass sometimes, or get out into the physical world. It can be easy for Pisces people to get lost in this imaginal, dreamy, emotional space. They are not so connected to the earthly material things. Water signs are always opposite to earth signs. So Earth is all about what is material, practical, here and now, what is physical and what do we need to do. Water signs, not so much, more into that mystical, intuitive stuff, not so connected to the real world. So that's going to be another challenge point for Pisces, is really getting things done that just need to get done. The chores, the errands, the to-do list, the tasks, all of that menial stuff that we have to do. That is not going to be what Pisces generally wants to be oriented towards in this lifetime, but is important and can also be a helpful grounding practice for Pisces to really just practice being in this material world. And then the last thing that I am going to throw in here, number 5, with one bonus actually after this. Number 5 is the seasonal component here. So Pisces is the end of winter, like I said, transition right before spring. So this is extremely significant for Pisces because not only is it mutable in terms of being the end of the season, but it's also the end of the astrological year. So there's this real numinous quality of being at the very end, at the precipice of the new beginning. Aries, we start again into the spring. It's a new year. So there's this really kind of transcendent thing of having reached the end of the whole zodiac. We went on this whole journey throughout the year, and now we have finally arrived at Pisces. And some people do kind of talk about, and the ancients also kind of talk about this in some ways sometimes, that there's a way in which each zodiac sign kind of matures and grows on the previous one. So there's this evolution of maturity happening. And so Pisces is kind of like the mystic, right? Now we're at the wise one, the transcendent one, who's kind of like realized the truth of all things and has given up the earthly realms and is just in this, the end of ends, and is ready to transition into the other side. It's kind of this death to life moment, right? Especially if you have placements at the end of Pisces. This is like a very numinous spot, the last decan of Pisces, the last 10 degrees there. If you have anything between 20 to 29 Pisces, then this place especially can be very challenging because it's that death and rebirth. It's double Mars ruled. It's this difficult endings. It's the, I will go to the ends of earth for you. I will go through any hardship, any suffering, anything I need to do to realize this love, to be in this transcendent place. That's kind of like the last decan of Pisces, which is the mutable of the mutables, the Mars of Mars, just the hardship, the difficulties, the sacrifice necessary for love, kind of in a way. And there is this deep divine love that Pisces has in general also. And then there's also this nature of being the end of winter, right? That can be a little bit depressive as well, where we have like that sadness of we've just been through so much cold and it's been for so long, and will spring ever arrive? And we're kind of introverted, you know, we're doing our arts and our crafts, we're tuning into our own practices, we're in our own world because we just can't go outside because it's the end of winter. So there's that sort of energy as well that comes along with Pisces. And the seasonal component is going to be especially relevant if you use the tropical zodiac, which of course I do because I'm a traditional Hellenistic astrologer using the Western, frameworks here. But if you were into sidereal, the zodiac, Indian astrology, Vedic astrology, then this is going to be more aligned with the constellations and not the seasons so much. So this is really more for the tropical zodiac people. And then the last secret sixth thing is going to be the body part associated with Pisces, which is the feet. So the zodiac kind of comes head to toe here. At the very end, we have Pisces, the feet, which is kind of funny because that is what actually grounds us. So maybe that's kind of the wisdom that we need to internalize for Pisces, is remember to feel the feet, your feet on the ground. Don't forget that we are of the earth, and this vision that you have is extremely important to manifest, but we have to start here with our feet on the ground. Okay, so Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising now. So the Pisces Sun people, Sun is going to be the ego, the mind, the persona. That is the psychological function that the sun represents. So people will know you for this. If you have a Pisces sun, this is going to be how you're known and seen, especially if you're born during the day. If you're born at night, you might be known a little bit more for the moon sign, but especially for day charts, this is how people know you. So you are the mystic, you're the artist, you're the creative, you're the dreamy one, right? Having the vision, maybe a little bit sad, maybe a little bit introverted, maybe a little bit intuitive. That is you, how you're known, how you're perceived, and the way that you think. So your mental stuff, the way that your mind works, is probably quite intuitive, maybe not quite as rational, analytical, maybe not really about the maths and the sciences and the dots and the Excel sheets and the spreadsheets and the numbers and dots and cents and I's and T's crossed. You could be sometimes, but generally the mind is going to be more of that creative right brain type of thinking, that intuitive, putting things together, kind of like synthesizing with the right brain stuff, the totality of the big picture thinking. That's going to be more of the Pisces, into that connected mystically to the collective consciousness and the visions of all of us. That's more of the mental stuff of a Pisces sun. Also, qualities inherited from the father. So you might have had a father who was quite mystical in this case, or maybe a little bit dreamy, maybe a little bit depressive. That can be the case sometimes for a Pisces sun. It can represent qualities inherited from the father or the way that you perceived your father's fathering. And then the Pisces moon, so this is going to be the emotions, the subconscious qualities inherited from the mother or the literal mother herself. And so if you have a Pisces moon, you are probably just the deepest, most mystical of feelers. You probably feel it all. Just the strongest superpower of intuition that is connected to what is just and fair and right. A Pisces moon, it might be very easy to get swallowed up in the emotions, though. It might be a little bit easier to slide into depression sometimes, to be a little bit too connected. The boundaries might be really difficult for a Pisces moon to be able to say no, to set emotional boundaries, to say those are your feelings, those are not my feelings. Just because you were feeling that way does not mean that I need to take that on. That's going to be probably very challenging for a Pisces moon. But deeply creative, deeply feeling, deeply intuitive people. And this also might be more of how you're known in private settings then. So the moon is more how we are at night after the sun has gone down, how people who are intimate with you know you, but maybe not how you're seen publicly. Maybe people in general don't know you as a Pisces as much, don't see that Pisces nature in you as much, especially if you're born during the day. But if you're born at night, then you might be a little bit more known for this, might be a little bit more part of your identity. And then for the Pisces moon, qualities inherited from the mother. So this can be people whose mothers were maybe quite mystical, quite emotional, maybe a little bit depressive, maybe a little bit boundaryless, could be the case sometimes for a Pisces moon, or maybe even a little bit religious. That could be another way that looks sometimes. And then for Pisces rising people, this is going to be the totality of who you are, mind, body, and soul. So in a traditional Hellenistic framework, the rising sign is the most important of the big three. We have the sun is kind of the ego again, changes sign every 4 weeks. Qualities from the father. Moon is the subconscious, the emotions. Qualities inherited from the mother, changes sign every 2.5 days. The rising sign is the eastern horizon, the point at the eastern horizon when you were born. This is where the sky meets the earth, where the mind meets the body. This is the totality of you. Changes sign once every 2 hours, the most unique and personal part of the chart. So this is the you of yous. Notwithstanding your culture, your parents, where you come from, the time you're born into, any of that, this is who you are underneath it all, the soul imprint in some way. And so everything that I've said up to this point will apply to you, and it'll be extremely important for you as Pisces rising to look into your Jupiter sign. This indicates the type of Pisces rising that you are. It will give us a sense of the purpose and life direction and really who you're growing into and what this lifetime is about for you. So if you can figure out what house Jupiter is in, if you are Jupiter rising, that will point us to the major purpose and life direction for you. And I do have a free download of all the house meanings if you want to look into that. For instance, if you had Jupiter in the 7th house, major focus and life direction for you might be oriented towards relationships, marriage, partnership, how to integrate with the other. So that's just one example. And then plus, if you have any other planets present near your Jupiter sign or points, then that will also give us clues about what this lifetime is about and who you are growing into. And I do also have a video about Jupiter if you want to just learn everything there is to know about Jupiter, which I do recommend, of course. And then also I have a movie about the water signs and what water means. I also have a video about the mutable signs and what it means to be mutable. So I do recommend that if you want to really get to the bottom of this, that you watch those videos as well, which I will link in the description too. And, or if you want to talk to me personally, there is nothing that I would rather do than talk to you about your astrology to see what is going on in your life, how this applies for you, what is your philosophy, what is your ideology, what is your vision, what is your dream, what are you here to actualize, what is your purpose. And as a traditional astrologer, I also do look into things into the future, like timing things around career, relationships, what's happening for you now, what cycle are you in, and when can you expect that to end. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, you can find the link to learn more about readings with me in the description below. Thank you so much for being here and for being you. We need you, Pisces, okay? Be well.